Good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Worldwide Guest Speakers. Today, our guest is Rosita Arvigo. She is a doctor of naprapathy. Sorry about this. It's a bit a difficult word. Please look it up at her website, what it means. Her journey into spiritual healing with plants began with a life-altering experience in the remote village of Salitre in Guerrero, Mexico, where she was unexpectedly thrust into the role of assisting in childbirth. Lacking modern medical facilities, the village relied on traditional healers, and it was here that Rosita learned firsthand the power of herbal medicine. We will today, spiritual healing with plants will explore the deep connection between plants and spiritual healing. We will draw from Rosita's extensive experience and the wisdom she gained from traditional healers. Rosita's story highlights the importance of preserving and sharing this ancient knowledge with the world, ensuring that these natural healing techniques continue to benefit future generations. So please welcome Rosita Arvigo. Bienvenida.
Gracias. Hello, everyone. I think I will switch to speaker view. Oh, nope. I guess I won't. Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for attending. I would like to open this discussion about spiritual healing with plants, telling the story of my first most definitive steps that were taken in Guerrero, Mexico during the Vietnam War in the 1970s. My boyfriend at the time was a draft dodger, as many young American men were, and we decided to move to a very, very remote area of Guerrero, Mexico. That was a 20-hour bus ride to this small town called Tlacotepec. And from Tlacotepec, it was a 14-hour walk to where we finally ended up living in a small village called Salitre. Salitre had 6 houses and probably 50 inhabitants because it's Mexico. Somos muchos, they say. And so on one event, one night, there was a big fiesta in town. That was that 14-hour walk. And I decided I didn't feel like walking 14 hours to go to a fiesta, so I stayed home. There were only 3 people left in the village, myself, Dona Rita, who was an 80-year-old, very infirmed traditional healer, and then her servant, who was Margarita. So there's Margarita, a mother who's 40 weeks pregnant. Dona Rita, who is the traditional healer and the grandmother of that household, and myself. So at 2 a.m. in the morning, I hear big, loud, urgent knocking on my door. I go to the door, and there's Dona Rita, literally on her hands and knees because she is arthritic and rheumatic. And in the night when it's cold in Guerrero at 7,000 feet elevation in the mountains, she was much more stiff. So she's on her hands and knees, and she says, Rosita, get up, get dressed, follow me. I need your help. Margarita's giving birth, and I'm all alone. And I was literally shocked. I said, me? Help you deliver a baby? I don't know anything about that. Now, when you live a long time in Mexico as a gringa, you learn that there is a certain look of disbelief that Mexican women give you. And that look says, where have you been all your life? Did they teach you nothing when you were a girl? So that was the look she gave me. And then she said, with all the force she could muster, which really affected me, she said, Rosita, vístate, sígate, apúrate, sígame, apúrate, Rosita, get dressed, follow me, hurry up. So I did, and I followed behind her on her literally hands and knees. And we get into this little hut. It's a thatch hut. And there's Margarita in the throes of childbirth with her 6th child. So I do whatever Dona Rita tells me to do. And in about 2 hours, we have a baby. And I'm holding this baby boy in my arms. And I said to myself, what was I so afraid of? This was so easy. I want to be a midwife. And then Dona Rita says, put that baby down. There's a problem here. Too much blood. Go outside with a pine pitch torch, no flashlight, just piece of pine, and you light it on the fire, and that's your torch. Go outside into the corral, bring me 9 red roses with this much of the stem and the leaves. So I'm out there holding the torch, trying to clip these roses with the scissors, and finally I get them in. And in the meantime, Dona Rita had put like a 1-quart clay jar on the open hearth fire to boil the water. And then she poured all of those roses into that pot, boiled it about 5 minutes. Then she told me to stand in the doorway with 2 jicaras, they're bowls of fruits that come off of a tree, and pass it back and forth in the breeze so that it would cool. She said it had to be cool or it wouldn't work. In the meantime, she tied Margarita's ankles up to the rafters so that her legs were at that angle. And she put lots of cold cloths all around the perineum. So when the tea was cool, she said, sit down and spoon it into her mouth. And I was able to clock it with my own watch, and I saw that within 8 minutes, the dripping of the blood ceased. And I thought to myself, wow, how could it possibly be? What could there be in red roses that could save a woman's life? Saved her life, prevented 6 children from becoming orphans, and a man from becoming a widower. I was so incredibly impressed. I said to myself, I am going to walk over hot coals and nails if I have to find out what was it in those red roses that night in Guerrero, Mexico, that saved the woman's life. It actually took 10 years. I had to study anatomy, physiology, chemistry, biochemistry, and herbology until one day in a library, was pre-computer, I discovered that red roses contain astringents, and that if properly prepared, strong, and administered cool, that it is sufficiently strong to halt postpartum excessive bleeding, not hemorrhage. This was excessive bleeding. Hemorrhage is like you're really pumping out the blood. This was excessive bleeding, according to Dona Rita. And that, I guess, I could say was the most definitive aspect of how I gained so much faith in herbal remedies, because firsthand I saw it save a woman's life. So in Mexico, I was fortunate enough to study with various different traditional healers in Spanish. And when I went to Belize, I was looking for a teacher of herbal remedies, because by then I had gotten my degree in naturopathy. That is an offshoot of chiropractic that uses body work to eliminate common human pain and suffering. So now that I'm living in Belize, I opened a practice in naturopathy. I'm also a herbalist, so I need to learn about the local medicinal plants of my newly adopted country. My husband and I, also a doctor of naturopathy, we met at school, decided that in the 1980s, life as an alternative physician in the United States was very difficult. I don't know if you're aware, that was about 40 years ago, but at that time, the government and the FDA had a very concentrated effort to disqualify and discredit traditional healing and all types of natural healing. And some people, one of my colleagues actually got arrested in her office for practicing medicine without a license, even though we were licensed as of 1907. So we decided that it was too much of a difficult political environment, and that we would rather live in a country where natural healing was accepted, common, and not against the law. So I had friends in Belize at the time, and I remember having visited there that traditional healing was still very much respected and necessary, because a third world country did not have all the resources to put first care responders or nurses or doctors' clinics in every village. So the government actually relied on traditional healers to be the first responders before people go to the hospitals. So I asked around how could I find a teacher? And usually I got the same answer. Oh, you should go see Don Eligio Panti of San Antonio. He is el mero, the very one, numero uno, number one. But be careful. He's a lecher. He's a necromancer. He practices black magic. You're a woman. You shouldn't go there because he will, he's known to be very advanced, very, what would we say, very flirtatious. Let's leave it there. So I'm thinking, how would I find this old man? And are any of this true? I know as a herbalist myself, I have been subject to a great deal of criticism, like you eat grass and you're a witch. So I didn't pay that much attention to the negative comments. So one day I'm in my clinic. I'm coming back from the market with a bag of mangoes for the children. And I see this old man sitting on my front porch. And I thought he was there to see me as a patient. So I said, good afternoon. I'll be with you as soon as I can. Give me a few minutes to put down my bags and I'll open the clinic. So finally, I invited him in. And when he reached out to shake my hand, that is a moment I will never forget. You have heard many times about the electrical charge that passes between people. Well, I felt that electrical charge and it sort of stunned me, but also the feeling of his hand that was so calloused and scarred from really hard bushwork. I was immediately impressed and I had no idea who he was. So he comes into my clinic and he starts telling me that he's now 90 years old. His wife passed away 3 years ago. He said, we were married since I was 15 and she was 14. And all of our lives, we slept like two kittens on a pillow. But now that she's gone, I'm all alone in my hammock and I can't sleep. Never had insomnia before in my life. If I turn over, when my wife was alive, she would reach over, pull me to her and all night long, kiss, 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 hug, 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 keep me warm. He said, that wool blanket, every time I turn over in the hammock, it falls to the floor. I need my blanket of guts. So Don Eligio was hilarious. He was always, always joking. He loved to make people laugh. So he said, do you have flor de tilo? Flor de tilo is linden flower tea, one of my very favorites. So I had brought some from Chicago. I had a series of herbs that I had brought, but they were all rotting in the tropics. Another reason why I needed to find the local plants. So I got down the bottle and I gave him a generous bag of linden flower. And he said, I see you have a problem. Your herbs are rotting in those jars. You can't keep herbs in glass jars. Here, he said, look inside. Can't you see how the moisture is building and dripping down on the plants? And that's how they're beginning to mold. Oh, of course. How could I have missed that? He said, no, darling. He was very affectionate. No, darling, put your herbs in paper bags. Take them outside and dry them in the sun. Put them back in the sun every week or so, and you'll never have mold. And I said, what's your name? And he said, oh, yes, I'm Don Eligio Panti of San Antonio. And I said, oh, I've heard your name. And I was wondering if it would be possible if I could come study with you. And he said, come, there I will be, ni más no menos than what you see in front of you. There I will be, neither more nor less than what you see in front of you. So I went the next week. Now, to get to his clinic from my little farm, I had to cross the river on foot and walk a mile through the jungle and then 5 miles on the logging road. I don't know if you know what a logging road is, but a logging road is a very dangerous place to be walking because these giant flatbed trucks come roaring around and they take up the whole 2 lanes carrying 50 big mahogany trunks or 50 big cedar trunks. So 5 miles on that road, it was about a 2-hour walk to get to his village. So I go the first day, he doesn't remember me. And I go the next week, he doesn't remember me. So finally, 3-4 weeks in, I start sweeping his little courtyard. I'm able to go collect a few plants for his clients. And once I even gave an enema to a woman because he was reluctant to give this lady an enema, but so I did it. So finally, 6 or 8 weeks go by. Now he knows who I am. Oh, you're the doctor from San Ignacio. Yes, I'm Rosita. You remember you came to visit me? Oh, yes, that Flor de Tilo really helped me. He said, you know, I'm going blind. I have cataracts. The reason I don't know who you are is because your face looks like a mask. And so he said, that's why I can't go into the forest like I used to. I'm afraid that while I'm in the forest collecting my medicine, if I trip over a vine, I won't see it, I'll fall, and there I will be, and nobody will know where I am or how to find me. So a whole year goes by, and I arrive on his doorstep after having been 1 day of every week, 52 weeks. It's almost exactly the same day to a year than the first day that I went. And I was able to get a ride that morning, so I arrived at 6:30 instead of the usual 11:30. So I'm there, he opens the door, and he looks down at me from his doorstep, and the look he gave me was devastating. The look pretty much said, oh my God, she's here again. So I decide this is it, this is my last day. He doesn't want to teach a gringa, he's made that very clear. And I'm never coming back again, but I'm going to spend this last day. He said, I don't have time for you today. I've been so busy with clients all week that I haven't had time to collect my medicine. So I'm going today to collect medicine and not time for you. Oh, he said, I'm going today to harvest my corn. Sorry, he was harvesting his corn. He said, I haven't had time to harvest my corn. So I'm going to do that today. And I said, well, I'll help you harvest corn. And he said, what do you know about harvesting corn? You're from Chicago. And I said, Don Eligio, I lived in Mexico for 7 years. I know how to harvest corn. Let's go. So he gave me one of those Mayan baskets with a strip of woven straw on your forehead, and the basket hangs down your back. And off we went. It was a 90-minute walk to get to his milpa. And when we get to the milpa, he said, okay, here we are. And I don't see anything but bush. I said, where's the corn? He said, a la barriga, on your tummy, on your stomach. And we had to crawl through about 30 feet of jungle because he hid his corn so people wouldn't steal it. So we crawl through this 30 feet of jungle. And when I come out, Don Eligio at 90, cornfield was a mountainside. Literally a mountainside of corn that he had planted, cultivated, and was now going to carry home basket by basket, all by himself. And that cornfield fed 15 people for 1 year with corn, beans, and pumpkins, the 3 sisters. So I start hauling in the ears of corn, dropping my basket, and I've got a nice pile. Finally, he's coming down this road this way. I'm coming this way. We meet in the middle, and he sees my pile of corn and perspiration falling off my face, and he says, are you married? I said, yeah, Don Eligio, I'm married, and I have 3 children. And he said, oh. So then at around 11:30, we stop for a break. I have an orange with me. I'm peeling the orange, and I give him half. After he eats the orange in silence, and I could see he was in deep contemplation. And he stood up, and because we're at the top of the mountain, it's 11:30, the sun is just coming up over that mountain. So now Don Eligio stands up, and he is enveloped in these golden rays of light all around his body. It was a magical moment. And he looked down at me, and he said, ¿Qué es que tú quieres? What is it that you want? And I said, Don Eligio, I just want to learn about medicinal plants. I promise to be a good student. I promise to work hard. And I promise to be as much assistance to you as possible. Well, okay, he said, do you promise if I take the time to teach you, you will take care of my people when I'm gone? Ooh, gulp. So I agreed. And then on the way home, carrying our one basket each of corn, he started pointing out the medicinal plants along the roadside. This one is called a now. Remember it by its red flower. We use that for herbal baths. That vine over there is called ishik. It's called the wind god. That's the name of the vine. And we use that for people with lots of gas, ishik, the wind god, in lots of gas in their stomach. So thus began a 13-year apprenticeship. Now, when I started with Don Eligio, I had no idea that he was the Maya shaman. I did not know that. I knew he was a very highly efficient and knowledgeable traditional healer, herbalist. I was not aware of the whole spiritual aspect. So I didn't know that I was beginning an apprenticeship with the Maya shaman. Little by little, this begins to reveal itself. So for the next 7 years, nonstop, I spent 4 nights and 3 days with Don Eligio every single week, so that I could be there to assist him in the morning when he went to collect medicine. He would leave his house at 6 a.m. with the dawn and walk an hour, sometimes 2 hours, into the high jungle bush of the rainforest to collect vines, roots, barks, and leaves. And so because he was reluctant now to go alone, he would only collect medicine if I was with him. And then one day we are digging up this black root called skunk root that Don Eligio used for spiritual healing, specifically spiritual healing like black magic, curses, envy, jealousy that make people spiritually ill. The remedy was prayer, herbal baths, and also drinking the tea of this skunk root. So we're pulling up this giant root, and he said, I've been collecting medicine on this piece of hillside for 50 years. How did this giant skunk root escape me? He said, I don't know how I never found it before, except when a man herbalist walks in the mountains collecting medicine with a woman assistant, Chel, the Maya goddess of medicine, assists him and helps him to find the medicine. First time I ever heard her name, Chel. And I said, who is Chel? And he said, oh, she's the goddess of medicine and healing. She watches after the healers in the forest and she guides them to their medicine. And she's the one to whom we address all of our prayers in healing. So besides being a great and famous traditional healer of common physical ailments like diarrhea, skin condition, headache, backache, Don Eligio was also the primary spiritual healer of the Maya people of his region. He was born in Guatemala, came to Belize when he was only 2 years old. One of his teachers was a Mexican man from Yucatan, and one of his teachers was a Carib, which we think was either a Jamaican or a Haitian. He only referred to him as un Caribe, which I believe is either Haitian or Jamaican. At that time in Belize, Don Eligio was born in 1893. When he began learning, that would have been around 1910 or 1915, at a time when Belize was famous for its chewing gum camps, chicle, rubber, and mahogany camps, where men from all over the Caribbean came to work in these camps. So it's very likely that one of his teachers was either Haitian, Jamaican, and for sure one was Mexican from Yucatan. And all traditional healers learn through dream visions. Don Eligio was certainly no exception. He told me that if he was taking care of a client, and if he didn't really understand the ailment, he would pray and ask for a dream from the benevolent 9 Maya spirits. These are the oversoul of the Maya people. Don Eligio explained that they are not God, but they are the right hands of God. He said they are the overlords of the physical world, the upper world. They're the overlords. They look after the rain, the thunder, the lightning, the plants, the waterways, the people, the trees, and they sort of keep creation in order, the 9 benevolent Maya spirits. So he told me about these 9 Maya spirits, and that whenever he needed to have more guidance with a client, he would pray, and they would give him a dream vision. And one night he woke up in the morning and he said, that lady who was here yesterday with a terrible cough, I gave her this bark, but I had a dream last night, and the Maya spirit came to me and said, old man, you don't really understand this lady's cough. It's not just a cough, it's a lung infection, and you're not giving her the right remedy. This is the plant you need, and this is where you'll find it, and this is how much you should give her. So I find that many traditional healers throughout Central and South America learn through dream visions. If they are dedicated to healing, if they are true traditional healers, and the true traditional healer is a personality. That personality includes very spiritual, very funny. They never take themselves or healing too serious. Don Eligio always said, most people think too much. Get them to laugh, half their trouble and sickness will go away, and the blessed herbs will do the rest. So they're very spiritual, they're very funny. They care more about the welfare of others than they do themselves, and they have a tremendous generosity of spirit. When you put all that together and a person dedicates their life to healing, the spirits pay attention to their needs. So now, because I realize I'm working with the Maya shaman, I'm learning about spiritual healing with plants. It was very important for me to know how to treat headache, bellyache, baby colic with local plants. But when I observed Don Eligio taking care of what he termed spiritual ailments, a spiritual ailment is something like you would think of as PTSD. In that culture, it's known as susto or espanto, which means fright. Something very sudden and traumatic that happens to you that affects your physiology for a very long time until you get this cure of water, plants, and prayer. So susto is one, fright or PTSD. Grief is pesar. Nobody escapes life without susto and pesar, fright and grief. Everybody has been through grief. Everybody, everywhere I lecture around the world, when I explain what susto is from a sudden shocking event in your life, and I say, how many people here can relate to susto? Every hand in the room goes up, whether I'm in London or Belize City or Chicago, anywhere in the world, people relate to that. So we have fright, grief, anger is a spiritual disease, and also envy and jealousy. So how Don Eligio treated this, number one, is diagnosis. He would do what is termed in Central America la plática, the chat, which you think of as the consultation. How long you've been feeling this way? Was there an emotional event? Did something very shocking happen to you at the time? What are your symptoms? So what we find is that everybody knows when it started. How long have you been feeling this way? When did it start? When it started, was there an emotional event that happened at the same time as the onset of your symptoms? Everybody knows. Seriously, I never talked to a single person who did not know when it started and what the actual event was. There is one exception. See if we get to that. However, how do we treat those specific spiritual ailments? First of all, the plática, and then the pulse. Maya healers have always been known as pulse doctors since ancient times. So in the pulse, Don Eligio was able to determine if this is a physical or a spiritual ailment. He once, I remember, having a chat with this lady who came to see him. It was a very long consultation. Finally, he felt her pulse and he said, Doña Maria, you never told me you had surgery 3 months ago. That's how exact he could be with the pulse. I never got that good ever, but I am able to determine a physical or a spiritual ailment from the pulse. The pulse of a person with a spiritual ailment feels like a garbanzo bean that is fast and jumping. It's like the pulse of a person without a spiritual disease, but a physical disease feels like a little lentil bean being pulled on a string. Little bump of the pulse. But if there is a spiritual ailment, it is very fat, fast, and jumping. It's the best way that I could describe it. Don Eligio taught me by pounding his boot on the ground to the beat of the pulse. So we get the pulse. Now we know this is a spiritual disease. The first thing is prayer. Maya spiritual healing involves love, faith, water, plants, and prayer. Now Don Eligio, because he was who he was, the Maya shaman, already had this aspect of being surrounded and infused with the vibration of love. His energy field was enormous. When I teach people about Maya spiritual healing, my first instruction is before you feel the pulse, before you begin to say the prayer directly into the pulse, you must stand in love. Stand in love. 3 very simple words. And some people kind of look at me like, how do I do that? It's so simple. What does it feel like to be loved? What does it feel like to love another? If you think of those 2 human emotions, you are standing in love. When you are standing in love, excuse me, your auric field is filled with light. Divine blessings are on you. Divine beings are with you. And if you are a healer who cares about other people's well-being, there is no doubt in my mind that you have a spiritual guide. You have a high self with you. If you care about others, a spiritual guide has been assigned and sent to you to assist you with your healing practice. So that's already a given. So we stand in love, and you must have faith. You have to have faith in the power of prayer. You have to have faith in the power of medicinal plants and faith in the power of love. So faith, love, prayer. Once we know that this is a spiritual disease by the pulse, we begin a series of 9 prayers. Now, Don Eligio taught me many different prayers, not all of which I am able to share. It could be actually any prayer that has meaning, makes your heart do this, makes you feel that little stream of vibration that goes through your solar plexus in a very pleasant way. It could be the Our Father. It could be the Hail Mary. These are really medicine chants of the Native American people, of all the Americas. So the prayer is repeated in a whisper. This is really important. I would say I've spent 20 years of my life trying to figure out why is it that a verbally spoken prayer, as opposed to a mentally thought prayer, has so much more power. First of all, it's a whisper. And the whisper is, the words are actually, as we all, I imagine everybody on this Zoom know, the words actually carry a sound vibration that you could actually record the vibration of sound, whether it be the human voice or music. Many of you have seen the sound vibration video recordings of music. They're all over the web as well. So what I think is happening when we whisper the prayer, first of all, we always mention the person's name in the prayer. And that is such a great sensation of being present with angels when the person's name, when they hear their name mentioned in the prayer. So that vibration goes through the auric field of the client that we're working with. And the memory of the fright, the susto, or the grief is in the energy field. Those people who can see that report that they see kind of muddy patches, dark brown muddy patches in the auric field of people who have suffered a great trauma or a great loss. And the prayer has the ability to move a vibration of love, which is light, through the auric field, and it goes and moves that out of the field, transforms that darkness by the light that's in the auric field from the love, the faith, and the prayer of the person who is doing the healing. I also think that while the prayer is being whispered, it's going into the person's ear, going to the pineal gland. And we know that the cochlear nerve of the ear goes to every organ of the body. So every organ of the body is also being bathed in this sound vibration. Or we could call it harmonic resonance. So these sound waves of the prayer penetrate right into the human body, physically and spiritually. So that's kind of a big thing. It's a lot to explain. But as I said, I've spent 20 years trying to determine why in Don Eligio's last year of life, he said, I can't go to the bush anymore. I can't even stand up. I am now only in my hammock, but I can still pray. And that's the most powerful tool that I ever had in healing, was prayer. So the 9-3 in the right pulse, 3 in the left pulse, and 3 over the forehead. That's the first part of spiritual healing. Then I would go out and collect some medicinal plants to use for a spiritual bath. Now, the plants must be collected with prayer. The plant is a spiritual being in a physical body. A spiritual being in a physical body. It was first a spiritual idea from the divine creator. And that spiritual concept of the divine mind manifested into mint, rosemary, sage, thyme, the cedar tree. And so they are spiritual beings in physical bodies just like us. Don Eligio said, you must say the prayer of faith and thanksgiving to the plant, or the spirit of the plant cannot follow you home, will not follow you home to do the healing. That prayer I can share. I can imagine that when I met Don Eligio, I had already been a herbalist for 20 years. And I can't imagine how I never considered the concept of giving thanks, gratitude, and faith to a plant before I took it from the earth. But once I knew that, I've never, ever, ever since then cut off a piece of a plant in a pot or taken a root out of the ground or a branch off of a plant without this prayer. And this is the prayer. In the name of, convenient for you to put that in there, who is your deity? In order to do spiritual healing with plants, the healer has to have a deity. We are not the ones who do the healing. We are the facilitators. Just I sort of liken it to the orchestra leader. The orchestra leader is not playing every instrument, but without the orchestra leader, there's no music. So without that prayer coming in. So I go to the plant, I stand for just a moment, and I like the plant to feel the acknowledgement of my presence. And if I don't feel that acknowledgement, I know that that plant is communicating, not me, not today. I don't have what you need. And it's not, some of my students take it so personally. Oh, the plant doesn't like me. Oh, I was refused. No, it just, the plants are put here, the spiritual purpose of helping us to heal others. They are our companions on the spiritual healing journey. We can't do it alone. They have no hands, right? They have no hands. They can't do it without us. We can't do it without them. It's a true spiritual partnership. So I like to approach the plants and I wait for this. And I have communicated with the plants in my environment. This is what I'm waiting for. It's like a sensation of a lift here, like something from me moves into the plant. There's a connection. So I wait for that. Then I begin the prayer, and this is the prayer. For me, it's in the name of the Father, the Mother, and the Holy Spirit. For Don Eligio, it was in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. That doesn't make my heart thump. For me, it's in the name of the Father, the Mother, and the Holy Spirit. I give thanks to the spirit of this plant. I give thanks to the spirit of this plant. And I have faith. And I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power. And I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power to help John, Mary Lou, Tommy, whoever the client is. Thanks to the spirit of this plant, and I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power to help Mary Lou. In the name of the Father, and of the Mother, and of the Holy Spirit. That's it. 2 simple sentences. And when we do that, the spirit of the plant, the deva of that plant genus, actually rises from the earth and comes with you. So I've collected, let's say I'm making a spiritual bath for a person with grief. So I would collect basil, marigold, and sometimes wormwood. I live in the jungle. I have 32 acres, so I have hundreds of plants that I could choose from. But let's say we make a bath of basil, marigold, and rosemary. And I do that with each plant. And actually, when I leave my house, I have my collecting basket. That's when I start to pray. Immediately, I start to pray. Then I go to the plant and I repeat the prayer. And as I'm collecting, if I'm going to make a bath, I need a basket of plants. It's like a bunch about this thick. So I don't have to say the single prayer every time I clip. I say the prayer nonstop. I give thanks to the spirit of rosemary, and I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power. I give thanks to the spirit of marigold, and I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power to help Mary Lou. Then I bring them in and I prepare a bucket of water, usually a 5-gallon bucket. Now we also give thanks to the spirit of water. Why not? Water, plants, prayer, faith, and love. So as the water is going into the bucket, I say, I give thanks to the spirit of water, and I have faith with all my heart in your great healing power. I take all the heavy branches off the leaves, put them in the bucket, and then I mash. We don't boil, we don't cook for spiritual healing. We just mash with our hands while we pray. Not thinking about the spiritual disease, because that is a low vibration. We don't want to emit the vibration of the sickness or the pain, the agony, the tears that the client shared with you. We only pray. And when you've heard, I know everybody in this room has heard some sad, sad stories that make you cry right there on the spot with your clients. That's what you do not want to think about, because then you are emitting that into the water. If you study Dr. Masuro Emoto's work, the secret messages of water, you know that water has memory. Dr. Emoto was a Japanese scientist, and he took a sample of a drop of water from the most polluted lake in Tokyo, froze it, and then he put it under a microscope, and it looks all murky and muddy. There's no crystalline formation at all in the water. He took that same drop of water and said prayers, holding it in his hand. It was again frozen, and when he put it under the microscope, it turned into a snowflake. So that's exactly what I see happening in the water as we're preparing the bath and in the bloodstream of the person that we're praying with. As those prayers are going into the blood, all of the water flowing through every cell, every system, in every organ in the body is going through with divine light and crystalline formations. So we prepare the spiritual bath with plants collected with prayer, and we make the bath with prayer. Then the person takes a seat. I have sarongs, bathing suits, and then we begin the splashing. It's the splashing. Now, what's happening with the splashing of the spiritual bath is every little droplet. I observed this once on the 4th of July. I saw all these children running in the street where they had opened the fire hydrant so the kids can run and play in sparkling in the water. And because it was a very sunny July day, the water was spraying 10 feet in the air and maybe 20 feet all around. But because the sun was hitting, every little drop of water turned into a rainbow crystal and did that. And that's what I imagine happens when you sprinkle and splash the water as opposed to soaking in the water. I always imagine we're soaking in our traumas, our sadness, our grief, and our fright. As we're sitting and soaking in the bath, the soaking is nowhere near as efficient as throwing it over. We also burn incense around the body. That's the Maya spiritual healing way. It could be rosemary, sage, it could be copal, it could be palo santo, but the incense is very, very important. And people feel quite transformed. So we have addressed the plants with a deep spiritual respect as beings in spiritual beings in physical bodies. So I guess it comes down simply to this, to love, stand in love, have faith. You can't do this work without faith. And in whom or what do you have faith? You can't do spiritual healing without a deity. The next question I know is going to be, well, could you just address your prayers to the universe? No. You have to humble yourself to a higher being. That you are the servant of this higher being. You are the servant of angelic beings and forces. And if this is something that seems very unlikely or weird to you or something that doesn't resonate with you, you can't be a spiritual healer. It's as simple as that. We can't do this work by ourselves. Without the presence of light beings, doesn't work. Simply that. But when you have light beings, and as I said, if you are a healer, you have light beings with you. There's no doubt. Maybe you haven't learned to feel their presence. Maybe you haven't learned to call on them. But in the Maya system of healing, that's the first thing that is done in the name of. And it doesn't matter who is, if it's Buddha, if it's Mohammed, if it's Jesus, just doesn't matter. For me, because I studied so long with Don Eligio, it is the 9 benevolent Maya spirits. They are now not my deity, but they are the light beings to whom my prayers and my supplications for healing for others are addressed. So that's spiritual healing with plants. Look at that, 50 minutes. I can't believe it. So, now I would like to take your questions.
Thank you, Rosita. That was probably the most beautiful explanation I ever heard. I mean, there were parts of it I got chills just listening to you. I'm just incredibly moved by it. So we'll start addressing questions to you. Do you have one that you want to start with, Rike?
I love one, which is, do you hear the plants speak to you? I have been communicating with the plants and collecting messages.
Sometimes, yes, sometimes. I wouldn't say it's all the time for me, but sometimes. But for me, it's more of a feeling. The feeling is in my solar plexus. I feel so uplifted and I feel so relieved of all common human burdens and worries. And occasionally, I do get a message somewhere, a whisper in the back of my head. Or sometimes I'm going out to collect plants for a spiritual bath, and I get a very clear message: give her a bath of only red roses. He needs a bath of marigold and basil only. I think I'm going out to collect a series of plants. But yes, I do. But I mean, wouldn't say that it's a lot, but often enough, yes.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, Rosita, we have a specific question about when you were talking about the excessive bleeding after childbirth. Would something like dried roses have to be used, or does it have to be fresh?
Either one, dry or fresh. I mean, remember, Dona Rita sent me out to the corral to get roses off the bush. It could be either one, but apparently there's something very necessary in the stem and the leaves. There's a lot of astringents in stems and leaves. So if you're going to do that, you must have the flowers, the stems, and the leaves. And for every rose, you need 6 inches of stems and 6 inches of leaves.
Thank you very
much. You can't use grocery store roses because they're probably toxic. You need backyard garden red roses, 9 large roses and probably 18 of the little small tea roses.
Thank you. That was very helpful, being specific there.
Mm-hmm.
Rike?
Yeah, Rosita, I'm just thinking, I love spiritual, natural herbs, medicinal herbs. I'm just now thought I really have to get some roses into my garden. Just, yes. It is, yes. Okay, so, huh?
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's a question from Jenny who asked, is there a herb that can help restore hearing deterioration?
Hearing deterioration. I can't pull that out. I don't know off the top of my head, but if I had a client like that, I would massage right here, these glands, right? There's often congestion in these glands that is disturbing the inner ear. And I would pull the ear up, down, and out 9 times, up, down, out. And often they hear a crackle. Also, I do use those ear candles. Make sure that it's not loaded up with wax, and that's why they can't hear. But otherwise, I mean, I would have to have a consultation. I can't just say, why did she lose her hearing? That would be the first thing. If she's had chronic sinusitis, chronic congestion, it's very likely all of these glands under here, part of the immune system, are very congested. So that would be the first thing to do. There is the plant. It's the thyme, actually. Now that the roller deck starts rolling, the thyme plant, you would need to make a very strong oil, like they make with mullein flowers. Mullein flowers is another one. They make it into an oil and set out into the sun. The thyme and the mullein flowers together, and now is the time in America to collect the mullein flowers, or get the thyme and make a very, very strong infusion with oil. and strain it really well and soak a little cotton ball in the warm oil and put it in the ear and do this. Nothing will help until you do that. Okay, next question.
Okay, Angela.
So someone asked, can you facilitate the healing without actually removing the plant?
Maybe. I don't do that. I know others do that, work with the spirit of the plant only. I believe that it can be done, but that's not my work. There are others who do that. Pam Montgomery is one, of course. But it doesn't resonate with me because I just love the aromas. I love the gardening. I love being with the plants. So I don't work that way, but there are others who do.
Thank you.
Okay, next one from Laura. How are the plants prepared? Can you use flowers, leaves, stems, or everything? Do you boil those in water? How long?
Don't boil them. If we're talking about spiritual healing, we don't boil the plants. We only put them in water and mash, opening their cells to get the cellular components, the physical components of the leaves into the water. But also your prayer is going into it at the same time. So every molecule of water is turning into something like healing light. No, there's no boiling for spiritual healing. And, you know, if we're talking about physical healing, it's a completely different subject.
Thank you. Yep, very interesting. Yep.
So Rosita, people are asking, can you name some of the top herbs, maybe, you know, things for different, you know, the top health issues, something for heart cancer, lungs, or digestive issues? Are there some that people should have all the time?
Yes, those are called household remedies for household ailments. I think that obviously chamomile would be right up there. Lemon balm is extremely useful for nervous disorders, for sleeplessness, anxiety, for overactive children. I find it very helpful for that. Tummy aches. You know, I'm really put on the spot here. I wasn't prepared for answering questions about physical healing, but I mean, I will send you my list of household remedies for household ailments, and we can give that to the people who are here. I'm really sorry, but my head is in spiritual healing.
That is fine. I really appreciate it. We're just trying to field some questions. So we'll look specifically for questions more about the spiritual
about what
healing.
I spoke about. Yeah, that would be much more comfortable for me.
Yep. So I think, Rosita, I have one, because somebody is asking, how about fairies are the deities?
Yeah. I don't know if they have physical, spiritual healing power. I'm not sure. I think it's in the hands of the angels and the light beings. But I have seen the fairies. When you spend 7 years in sleeping in the hut of a shaman, you are enveloped in this realm of nature spirits and dream visions. I have had many helpful dream visions from plant spirits while working with Dona Rita. And these dream visions are always heralded by nature spirits. They're very mischievous. They're like mischievous, active children. And before a dream vision begins, they'll do things like take the hammock and swing it back and forth while you're sound asleep. Up and down goes the hammock, and at one point, they turn the hammock upside down, and you're looking down at the ground in the hammock, wondering, am I going to fall? And Dona Rita said, before a dream vision begins, you're going to feel furry hands on your face. They're going to come and tickle your feet. They're going to come and pull your hands. They'll pull your hair. They go in your face like that. And if you get scared, the dream vision can't happen. So when you feel those nature spirits come, you have to pray. And once you pray, the dream vision begins, and it always worked that way. One night I was sleeping in the hammock, and for no special reason, I wake up around that magic hour between 2 and 4. Some people call it the witching hour. I call it the magic hour, between 2 and 4 a.m. I wake up like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see these two little feet with red boots around my belly and these two little hands right here around my chest. And I feel this beard on my neck. So this little fairy has himself wrapped around my body like this. And this is already like 5 years into my apprenticeship. So I'm not really scared, but my heart is starting to pound. And I say to him, I'm not afraid of you. And I'm going to turn around right now, open my eyes, and look you right in the face. So I did that. I turned around, opened my eyes, and the little creature went right in my face.
Sorry.
Scared me. Thought I'd jump out of the hammock.
Yeah, beautiful.
That is great.
Yeah.
So somebody asked, is it more effective to grow your own plants and then sending them prayers and loves as they grow and then thank them for sacrificing their life to serve us when we harvest?
Is it more effective? Can you read that again?
Yeah, is it more effective to grow your own plants?
Oh, no, not specifically. I mean, there's a relationship that we established with these plants because we gave them life. But I travel all over the world. I do spiritual healing in New York City. It's not the plants that I grew when I'm in Chicago area doing my grandmothering work over the summer. I only have a patio of pots. And I have done some of my most fantastic, powerful spiritual healing on my little suburban patio. I grow basil, rue, marigold, sage, thyme, oregano, lemon balm, and lavender. I have 8 plants to choose from, and they're always there. Here in Mexico, I've had to do many spiritual healing many spiritual healing sessions while I'm here. I don't have a garden. Does that mean that I can't work? No. So I go out to the surrounding areas, or even in the yard where I live in Mexico, there are potted plants out there. They're not my potted plants. I didn't grow them. No, I would say no. Does it give it more power? I guess if you think so. If you put that energy into it, then yeah, it is more power. But for me, no, I don't think so. But I could not have faith in a plant that has been, whose seeds have been cultivated with extreme hybridization, whose plant life has been subjected to poison sprays. However, I remember after 9/11 in New York City, I was there just a month afterwards, and one of my own spiritual healing students lived a block away from the World Trade Center. She was so upset, she had so much PTSD. I had to help her. So we're on the 34th floor of an apartment building in New York City. I took the elevator down to the grocery store on the bottom. And I walked around the produce department, and I saw a little plastic container of basil, one of rosemary, and one of thyme, like $5.98 each for one sprig. And I took those plants and I held them in my hand, and I said in my mind, look, I don't know what your journey has been to find yourself on a grocery shelf. I don't know if you were grown and treated lovingly or not, but I have faith with all my heart that if I call your spirit will come to help with this healing. And it did. It was a very, very, very powerful spiritual healing that I did on the 34th floor of New York City because of love and faith. Water, plants, and prayer.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, I'm also speechless. You open a full new world, to really understand what there is. Okay, next question. Do you feel as you consult with someone that the best approach occurs to you while you are consulting?
Absolutely. Dona Rita always said, while I'm listening to my client, I get the plant pops into my head. And he always said, it's like the old Zen saying, first thought is best thought.
Oh, nice.
That's always been true. Yes, it pops into my head, and it may not be what I used the last time someone came to me for healing of grief. I might have 10 clients with grief, and each one I'm guided to use a different plant. And not ever would I say that, for instance, the marigolds are the only plant you could use for PTSD, or rosemary is the only plant. My favorite plants for spiritual healing are the aromatics. I gave you the list of what I grow on my patio in America: rosemary, sage, thyme, lavender, oregano, and then lemon balm. I really love lemon balm, especially for children. Nobody ever told me lemon balm is good for bathing children. I just know intuitively that it is, because the spirit of lemon balm has guided me.
Yeah.
You might get different information. It also depends on the plants that are available to you. But I do like the aromatics, and giving an aromatic a bath with high aromas is another way of bringing an energy into the physical body through aroma.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Angela.
So Rosita, you had mentioned before about making some teas. Are you talking about just ingesting the tea, or are you also talking about bathing and splashing, not bathing, but splashing it like you do the water?
I would make a tea, but that tea would be something to drink. The bath is not to drink.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. If I chose a plant to give sometimes you have a client. I remember one of my very, very first clients. She begged me for something to drink. I didn't think it was necessary, but I knew she was not going to feel that this healing was complete unless she could take something home to make a herbal tea for herself. So I told her to drink rosemary. The next one, if someone insisted, I might say drink marigold tea. Obviously, we want to choose plants that we know have no negative side effects in any way on anybody. Those are those plants that are safe for all beings at all phases of life. And that's why I like those simple kitchen aromatics are my favorite plants. And it seems like I've had a relationship with them my entire career. So I have faith in them. I love them, and I know they love me.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking for questions, but there's something about unicorns and dragons. But you talked about the spirits who come to you when you were in the hut, and these were fairies. Then there's a lot about sicknesses, but not really spiritually. So some people ask about your website.
Yeah, this class that I'm giving you now in 90 minutes is a week long. If you really want to learn how to do this, you need to come and sit with me for 5 or 7 days.
Yes.
So, it's rositaarvigo.com. My classes are listed on abdominaltherapycollective.com because my life is also split between physical therapy and spiritual healing. By physical therapy, I mean that special type of abdominal massage that Dona Rita taught me, which has become one of the 2 cornerstones of my professional career. Abdominal therapy to treat the PTSD that has settled in the body and to correct the position of the uterus on women. And then, of course, the spiritual healing. So that has been the basic focus of my professional life since I met Dona Rita.
Yeah, I went to your website. I read these beautiful stories you talked about your teachers, and yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't have.
Debbie will post those links in the chat so people have them.
Sure.
Okay, Angela, you have another question?
I do. So during your consultations, Rosita, do you look into a patient's Mayan astrology sign?
No, I know nothing about that.
Okay,
There are others who do, but I don't.
thank you. So just one more, along the lines you talked about using oils like the thyme oil. Can using the essential oils of other plants be used instead of herbs? Like
No.
instead of the actual herbs? No?
No. For spiritual healing, no.
Yes.
You could make a chrism. A chrism is anointing with oil. So, I mean, you could make a chrism with basil and marigold, soaking the plants in oil and then strain it. And then you could use that. I don't know exactly how you would use it. You'd put it on the human body in some way. That's a whole other type of a talk. But yes, that's called anointing with the chrism. Occasionally, I travel with the chrism. Usually I have marigold and basil in there, infused in an oil, sometimes Palo Santo, just a little 1 ounce bottle. And when I'm, for instance, I've been on airplanes, I've been on trains and buses, and the person next to me says, "So what do you do?" Well, there we go. Next thing I know, oh my God, I need that. Oh, I really need you to help me. And maybe I'll never see this person again. I get out my little bottle, put it on my fingertips, and I'll make a cross over the wrist, and I'll say prayers on that wrist, make a cross over the other wrist, and say prayers on that wrist. Occasionally, I've heard back from those strangers that it changed their lives, that they went home completely transformed, because you do what you can in the moment. And the spirits that work with us to bring the healing about totally understand that you're on a train. You're not going to make a spiritual bath, and you can't, I would never put my hands on a person's forehead and pray. That would draw so much attention. It would make me nervous. And I would lose that steadiness, that being in the simplicity of light and love. So I might just put my hand on the chest, or I would only do the pulses. So we do what we can when we can. And Spirit completely understands if we work with love, faith, and sincerity. It always, always, always works out. People feel so much better. Their lives are changed.
So I have a question, much more, a broader one, basically. Do you have suggestions for us getting more in tune with the spiritual healing possibilities?
I think meditation and prayer is very, very important. And to go into meditation and ask, who is my spirit guide? If you meditate sincerely, you ask sincerely, and you're not expecting a show. You're not expecting a Broadway play to be performed for you in your dream. It'd be something very, very simple. But if you meditate with deep breathing, focus on that. Who is my spirit guide, and how can I have a relationship with that spiritual being? That's all. And wait, I can't tell you it's going to happen that night or the next night, but if you have faith with all your heart, your prayer will be answered.
Okay. Rike, do you have any questions? 1 second. You're still muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm on my phone. And
Okay.
I was kicked out, and now I'm in all the questions again, so I cannot see them. Personally, I have a ton of questions. So
no, go ahead.
this is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I lived on an island, and my son was very, very sick. And there where was a woman who told me, give him this plant and make it in a tea. Yeah, it's not spiritual, but no doctor could help him, and she actually saved his life. So there are so many plants people don't know, because this looked like a bush plant, just something which did grow everywhere. It was called amoeba bush. And I never ever found it. So actually, do you have a place where you can get the information about plants and know what you would like, what you want to preserve as plants? Because it's what I really find now difficult is finding all this. I don't find this amoeba bush anymore. I go with normal plants, but I really would like to know like something where I know this is the plant I need and I can use it for something. Do I explain myself or not really?
I'm sorry, are you asking me how to find that specific plant?
No,
or
it
how
is.
to know which plant? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually really a bit scared that so many plants disappear.
Oh yes, that's true.
Yeah. So I would really like, I don't know, there's this thing, because I want to preserve them. So here I'm just taking all the plants somebody talks about that they're healing plants. Yeah. But is there a book, or is there something where someone can get informed and know which plants actually, because they're wild plants, so they're not famous?
It depends on your location. I wrote the book for Belize. It's called Rainforest Remedies. I wrote a book for cities called The Urban Herbalist. If you're on what are you on an island now?
No, I'm in Panama, Pacific Coast.
Okay, Panama, you could use my Rainforest Remedies. It's called Rainforest Remedies 100 Healing Herbs of Belize. But in Panama, the herbs are very similar to Belize. And I know that people in Panama use the book, and I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon. I have several books on Amazon, including the story of my apprenticeship with Don Eligio called Sastun. Sastun, which was his magic instrument, his crystal ball. So you either need a teacher, or you have to get a book that gives you really good illustrations and helps you find and locate that plant. But I mean, a teacher is the best. Are there no longer traditional healers there?
No, not really. The old ones are really disappearing, and there is no real interest from the younger people. Yeah, it is really a pity.
Well, I tell you what I did when I got to Belize. There was no books whatsoever. I went to the National Library in the capital city, and I looked up all of the ethnobotanical research that was done in the country but never published. So if you go to a botanical garden in Panama, explain to them that you're looking for their ethnobotanical records of collections in Panama. That's where you will find it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will definitely do it, because I feel called to medicinal plants.
There they will have herbarium specimens. So you'll see the dried plant on a sheet. It will tell you what district of Panama it grows, and there will be a collection data of what the traditional healer said it was used for. That's why it's called ethnobotany. You don't just want botany. You want ethno, meaning how people and plants relate to each other. And I know for sure Panama has been the subject of a great deal of ethnobotanical research.
Yeah, because we have a lot of indigenous people.
Right.
And we had a lot of healers, but they're disappearing. Yeah.
True, all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you for that. That was some very valuable information you just supplied. I'm really grateful for that.
That's how I started. I went to Belmopan in Belize, and I just went to the forestry department and started pulling out all these old books from the 1800s, early 1900s of English people, because it used to be British Honduras, who did these original ethnobotanical studies, but never published them.
Wonderful. What a resource. So someone wants to know, what is unfolding for you at this time? Where are you at this, at this point in your life?
Well, right at this point, physically, I'm right now in Mexico, where every year I come to do free community workshops on medicinal plants. So this month I was at the Botanical Garden and I did a free workshop in English and Spanish, back and forth. It's a head buster, but I'm 83 and I can still do it. And so then this coming week, I'm doing another one at the Organic Consumers Association Ranch here in Guanajuato. And then I do radio programs for the outlying villagers who aren't able to come in to the town or the cities. And I just talk about their very common plants that grow in their backyards and in patio pots, not obscure plants and vines and things, just something that is household remedies for household ailments.
Beautiful.
I've been doing that for about 30 years because the information is dying in Mexico too. And Mexico is where I got started. So my heart has always been here. And I feel like I was gifted this information. And I promised Don Eligio I would take care of his people. And I feel that's one of the best ways to do it, to keep this wisdom and knowledge available to them. And it always sparks something that their grandmothers taught them, or sometimes there's young people whose grandparents are still alive. And they feel really encouraged now to go home and get more information from their grandparents who have the knowledge and the wisdom.
So do you still go to Don Eligio's village to assist?
No, nothing happening there. His house, whole area has been turned into a graveyard for dead buses. Yeah. That was a point in time. It's over.
Yeah. Rike, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. So I just have one other question. If anybody has a question about spiritual healing with plants, please post them before we end. One person says they love marigolds. They have them in their garden. They dry them and they keep them in a paper bag inside a glass jar. Is that something that's still good to use for spiritual healing?
Of course. I dry all my patio plants. Dry them all. I make a tea for the children, and if I lived in those areas during the winter, I would be using dry plants for spiritual healing. But I live in the tropics, so I have them all year. Dry the marigolds, dry the rosemary, dry the basil, dry the oregano, dry all of those patio plants that are edible, that we drink as common everyday teas. Most absolutely for sure you can use them. If you use them in the wintertime, I would reconstitute them for about 10 minutes with hot water. And then squeeze them like that into the bucket for the spiritual healing.
So I do have one other question that came in. It says, do you find some issues are only physical, or do all issues have some sort of spiritual component?
That's a hard question to answer unless I'm talking to the person, right? But I think that some ailments, yes, are only physical. Don Eligio always divided. This is a physical ailment. This person works too hard, has a backache. This person was out collecting corn, and the cold wind came up. That's definitely, you get that backache we call wind invasion. They call malvientos in Central America. Those are physical ailments. Migraines around menstruation, probably physical. But sometimes a person has a long-standing digestive problem that stems back to a traumatic event in childhood. It's actually an emotional, spiritual problem. But you can't know that until you have the consultation, the plática. You know, I usually take 40 minutes just to sit down and talk to the person to try to, is this physical or is this spiritual? Don Eligio also used his crystal ball to determine if this was physical or spiritual. But he was the shaman I'm not the shaman. I prefer to figure it out. I was actually never able to properly read the Sastun. He tried his best to teach me, but I always say I'm a physician, not a magician. I learned his system. I have faith in it, but I don't know. The Sastun always evaded me, and I just accept that as, what's a Sastun? I see the question. A Sastun is a crystal ball, and they appear to Maya shamans as gifts from the spirit world, from the benevolent 9 Maya spirits. The Maya shaman will find it on his breakfast table. He will find it in his cup of tea at the bottom. Don Eligio found his in his hammock. He didn't know what to do with it, but he knew that he had been praying for the Sastun because he knew that a true Hemen or shaman has a crystal ball, a Sastun. Sas means light, tun is stone. So it's the stone of light, which is a crystal ball. And in that crystal ball, he was able to, after he rolled it around in a little clay jar that was also teleported by the Maya spirits, appeared on his doorstep. He didn't know what to do, but he prayed, and then the Maya spirits came to him in a dream vision. And for his dreams, there was always a Maya person that looked dressed like a Lacandone Indian, sort of like in a plain muslin manta, a plain tunic, long hair, and there was always another person who was silent, standing all decked out in like what we think of as the Maya chiefs and kings and queens, wearing feather headdress, jaguar pelts, and large jade pendants and a staff. That spirit said nothing. The one who brought the message was the one dressed in plain clothing. And that person, that spirit, told Don Eligio how to use the Sastun, how to look for lines and bubbles in there to determine, is this a physical or a spiritual ailment? As I said, I was never able to really do it. And that's okay with me.
Well, Rosita, this has been so fabulous. I feel we've been blessed just to hear your stories and to have this awareness of what a spiritual healing is with plants. And I want to thank you on behalf of Connecting Consciousness Worldwide Voices and all of our members for all that you have offered us. And we will post your links, and hope everybody will have the opportunity to watch the recording. So again, I thank you. And I thank everybody for joining us. We're now at the end of our time, and I hope you'll join us on the next Worldwide Voices. Thank you again.
Thank you too, everybody.